Welcome to Main Street Minds with your host, Amish Munchi. This is where industry leaders and seasoned pros share their secrets to success beyond limits. Let's dive in.
Hello and welcome to Main Street Minds. Today we have a very special guest, Matt Paul, with us, and he is a podcast host himself. So I'm really glad about that and really excited to learn about him with the podcasting and more importantly, how did he become successful in real estate and what is he doing right now to create magic in Buffalo, New York, one of my most favorite places. I love that place. Have always been fascinated with what potential Buffalo provides to everyone and how the city has transformed as well. So, without any further delay, let's dive in. Matt, tell us your secrets.
Yeah, thank you, Amish. Thank you very much for having me on your show. And, it was an interesting story for me. I've been in the real estate business now for 12 years, and I was in the hospitality business prior to that. And then I had both sides of my family were entrepreneurs. So my father had a multiple retail stores. And then on my mother's side, it was a stone quarry outfit. So, it was in my blood. I always wanted to work for myself, and after going through hospitality and the ups and downs in 2008. I'm sure you remember the economy.
Yeah.
We had a tough time, and I was out west running a hotel at that point, and so the industry really fell out, and the occupancy rates were about 40% in Buffalo at the time. I ended up moving back here, and then I got into construction with my father, who he closed the retail stores, and yeah, so we wanted to go into business together. We started doing that, and then I hurt my body. Didn't hold up as well as it should have, so I made the educated decision at that point to get into real estate, because I lived in New York City, worked in Manhattan, and I fell in love with real estate after living there. It's so impressive, right? So I just after I hurt my back. I had 8 herniated discs in my back, and I said, okay, it's time to use the brain again and retire the body. So that's when I got into real estate. I started. It took about a couple months to go through the course. I did it online, which I would not suggest. I would suggest going into a class and have, being live with a teacher for that class or for that course. But I got licensed, and right away I was an investor. I had a property out in New Mexico where I lived, and I ended up keeping it and renting it out for a while. And then I bought another property with multiple units and outbuildings, and so I started getting into real estate investing while I was getting my license. And then it just took off. A lot of my friends were investors already, and they didn't have a real estate agent that they could really trust. They would tend to go through the listing agents, and so I just built rapport with a lot of my network and the people that I knew growing up, and the year over year that my business has grown. I did have a couple down times when around the COVID and all that, when things were out of our control and we weren't able to really work. But other than that, it's just been a slow and steady increase. I really try to rely on my sphere and not the paying for leads and all that. I'm sure as well, you can really just go down a rabbit hole with paying for leads right now. And a lot of the teams do it, and God bless them. But it's just not something that I like to do. So it's all homegrown, from word of mouth referrals, and I also do commercial real estate. So on my team, I'm the only one that does commercial. So when somebody has a client need that they just can't handle, they usually get me involved. Sometimes I partner up, sometimes I take it over and just give them a referral fee. So, so that's been my bread and butter. I still do real estate investing as well. I have a couple properties here in the city of Buffalo that I rent, and I'm starting to look into more of a commercial property, like a storage facility or vacant land to build storage facilities. So that's going to be my next venture.
Perfect. Yeah, that is a very, very good, rich experience of that you bring to the table, and especially being able to do both commercial and residential. A lot of people think it's completely separate worlds, but if we think about if our main intention is to serve the client, then it's the same work.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. It's challenges are different, right? The time of a deal, it takes much longer usually to close on a commercial deal. So
Yeah.
you got to have patience, and you really, have to know a lot about what you're selling. So if you don't
Yeah.
know, you can get sued.
Yeah.
it's a little bit more, risky. And I think that's why some residential, at least the agents that I talk to, it's out of their wheelhouse and they don't want to get involved with it. Right. So,
Yeah.
but it never scared me. My first year in the business, I sold a 10-year lease and I'm like, okay, I can get in with this and it's all business. Right. So it's less emotion on the commercial side, which is refreshing.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. So, tell us more about your first deal. What was that first deal like, and
Yeah. Oh,
what was it? How did it go?
so exciting. So my first deal, I actually had a friend that had a 4 unit investment property in the town that I grew up in, and he waited for me to get my license.
Okay.
Yeah, so he waited a couple months, and as soon as I got licensed, I put a 4 unit up, which was,
Right.
which was great for my office and the broker I was working for. And then before you know it, I had a couple other investors that had similar type properties in the town reach out to me. So I started to become that guy that had, the
Yeah.
the hard to find investment properties in the town of Clarence. That's
Right.
where I was working. So yeah, so my first deal went off. I had I had a vehicle issue and had to get towed, and I was just so happy that nothing bothered me after. like,
Yeah, and it's amazing. A lot of new agents always say, "Hey, the first deal is the most difficult," and the good with the people with the right mindset do manage to get through the first 10 deals. But that first 10 deals defines what we are probably going to do, right? Uh,
yeah,
it sets the
absolutely.
benchmark. That's the kind of clientele you'll be working with in the long run.
Yep.
So nature has a good reason to ensure it takes time to do that first few deals because
Yeah.
ensure if only the person that goes through that and is really committed to like figuring it out, and
Yep.
because they're going to live with that for a long time, you whether they like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yep. But and
Yeah.
then just, having that first deal, then you can advertise with the yard sign, you can start putting
Yeah.
stuff online. So, building your database, right? So all those, important business tasks that you have to do, if you just keep up with it, and one will turn into two and turn into three. And my first deal, or my first year in real estate, I did around 20 deals. That was 19 to be exact. And I didn't start exactly in the beginning of the year. It was in March.
Mhm.
So I had about 9 months to do that. And I pulled it off, and I was the rising star in my office, and
Nice.
I felt great. And, I just, ever since then, I still get really excited, and I still get like lots of energy when I'm, closing a deal or
Yeah.
negotiating a deal. So it's in my blood. I love it.
Cool. And did you have any mentors or was it
Yes.
a good
Yeah,
broker?
I've had a handful of mentors. So my friend who got me into the business, she personally mentored me. And we still talk, right? There's still sometimes there's a unique situation. I just want to bounce an idea off, and I'll call her. But yeah, so I had a hands-on, one-on-one mentor, and then one of the owners of the company, the brokerage that I worked for. His son took me on as a mentor as well, and he was great. So I met with him about once a month or so, and just one-on-one lunch type meetings, and he really helped push me, and because I had say, he's like, "What's your goal?" And he's like, "Why can't you do twice that?" And like just always raising the bar. So I just kept pushing and pushing, and yeah, so those two were great, and that was early in my career, and then I had paid for coaches, over the last few years. And yeah, and I'm always learning, right? And I love the different podcasts, different, I like Grant Cardone has a bunch of good stuff, right? So I
Yeah.
just,
The next conference as well.
yep, yeah,
Amazing how many people that show up. It's and repeatedly show up. It
yeah,
works well.
yeah. Yep. So yeah, I just try to keep learning, and once I find something that I'm interested in, I'll try to find every resource that I can to find to get the nitty gritty and understand what they're
Yeah.
talking about. And yeah, I think educating and just continually throughout your career is what you need to do to stay on top.
Sure, makes sense. So tell us more about how is it being an associate broker? Are you working with a team right now? Like, how are you
Yeah.
managing everything?
Yeah, great question. So I'm with EXP Realty now, and they're pretty big in the world. And we are on a team. I'm on a team, but we are all kind of our own individuals. We have a team leader who put the team together, but there was a handful of us that were working already under his brokerage, and then we moved to EXP. So yeah, it's just been uh, there's a ton of trainings, and like every day you could be learning something different, right? And then
Yeah.
you got to apply it though, so I try to just take EXP offers, I think, the best tech package and the best tools, resources, and our CEO is just ahead of everything, Leo. And so, just if you do what they say, take one thing, and really own it, and then you can just you have a whole nother part of your business that you just started up and grew, right? So
Yeah.
I
I
think,
love Yeah, I was with EXP for about 5 years, and I love
oh,
working with them. I just because I do a lot more of lending, I had a little financial benefit. Anyways, I wasn't doing a lot of transactions, so I had a little financial benefits to putting my realtor's license with a loan company.
yep.
So so I did move on, but I love EXP, and like I always call it like a good framework, with ensures like you're compliant with everything, and it gives you all the resources as much as you want, or you can, and you have a pick and choose, right? You want to be on a team, you want to be individual, you want to be the highest performer. You have all possible options, and but it's easy to get lost. And just as you mentioned, it's good to have mentors, right? Saying initially at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's great that you worked at EXP, so you understand. And yeah, if you're not doing the deals,
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense because you're paying every month for the tech, and
yeah,
the fees just keep coming. So I totally get that, but I like the ability to be your own individual at at this brokerage. So they really push, brand yourself, right? We have to have EXP on the sign, but not like the
yeah,
whole point, the major
yeah.
focal point. So I like that, we're building our own business within this company, and they have, again, just the best tools. So
Yeah, makes sense. So, tell us more about Buffalo right now. Like, what is happening in last few years? Where is it right now, and where do you see it in the future?
yeah, so Buffalo, it was doing really well prior to the COVID, and I've, born and raised in Buffalo. I moved away for a few years. So I saw, the years when I was growing up in college and stuff. It was the type of place where your parents were like, you might want to go away and work somewhere else,
Yeah,
see what you think. And I did, and it was great. And I really, I don't regret it at all. I learned so much, but then, coming back here, I saw a totally different Buffalo, and that was,
yeah,
it really, really took off. We started to attract, the Tesla. There's a huge gigafactory here, so Tesla brought in a bunch of jobs, and then the tech scene really started to blow up. And
yeah,
we have, yeah, a lot of great tech startups and stuff. So I'm seeing. From when I first moved back again in 2008, that was more of an exodus where people were coming back into the city, back into more of the yeah, more popular or populated areas. And then during COVID, people started to move back out and wanted to go rurally, and out in the woods, and where they couldn't, could just live their lives and not have to have all the regulations and stuff. So, and now I'm starting to see a turn back towards the city. There are still a few people moving out, but for the most part, I live off a Hurdle in North Buffalo, and it's a real, popular area in the city of Buffalo. And the street of Hurdle had about 4 restaurants that were open right after COVID. Now the street's full again. So,
yeah,
I'm seeing a lot of people coming back. Businesses are opening up again. I think that it's an affordable place to live, minus the taxes in New York State. Everybody knows it's a highly taxed state, but you can still buy a house, a decent house under 300,000,
yeah,
and that's move-in ready, turnkey, where, and just back when I first started, 150,000 was that house,
yeah,
so it has
yeah,
it has doubled, has gone up, but we never really had a fallout. Even in 2008, the values didn't go down. It just, the market slowed. There wasn't a lot of activity, but we
yeah.
never, where I was in Santa Fe, that fell, that
Oh,
market, I mean, I
yeah,
bought a house for 225. I sold it for 160, like it was bad.
yeah,
So, that I don't anticipate or see happening here in Western New York at all. And Zillow rated us the number one, city the last 2 years, not this year, but in 24 and 25. So I think we got a lot of attention at that point. Before you and I got on, we talked about, like, New York City. Right now, there's a ton of people that are moving from New York City out here. Uh,
yeah,
Cost of living, politics, whatever it is, they're coming.
yeah,
I've placed several people from Brooklyn and stuff that just, they're going to work from here, and go
yeah. crazy. Like I love the city. I think, but I'll just rent over there. I just helped somebody refi a loan close to New York City, and just there was I don't know if it's the same in Buffalo, but there's something called as a mortgage tax on a refinance, and the borrower is paying like $6,400 as a tax just to refinance his property. I'm like,
What?
what?
That defeats the purpose.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah,
So I love the city. Like I love the energy and everything, but I'm like, yeah.
yeah.
Um,
No,
and just a little insight that I'm able to get from what you just mentioned is I think depending on the price point of the houses,
mhm.
because world always goes through ups and downs, right? Like Santa Fe was probably more expensive. It got hit with more. It was impacted more with the higher interest rates that temporarily happened before 2008.
Yep.
Uh, and I think the higher priced places get impacted more,
Mhm.
and you'll get a lot more stability by living in Buffalo.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
Slow
and
and
it's
steady.
very bad. Like if sorry to interrupt, the higher priced places, if you're living there, the impact of what you did mention about 225 to 160, it's
Hmm.
not 225 to 160. It's practically like it's not just a number. It's not 80,000 or
No, yeah.
1,000. The impact of that is devastating to most people.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and Santa Fe also was a more of a secondary home or vacation home place. Like
Yeah,
the actual population was very small, but a lot of people had second homes there. And in the summer, the
yeah,
population would double, right? So when you don't have people traveling, that really hurts the local economy, you know?
yeah,
So that's a factor in Scottsdale, Arizona, right? You know, at the same time, that's a very
yeah,
wealthy part in Arizona. And that, I mean, that they had, $1 million properties that were sitting vacant,
yeah,
and people left. And yeah, it was a tough time. But again, here in Buffalo, it wasn't like that, Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
we were all dealing with the same economics, but there were the values stayed strong, didn't dip. Right now we're still seeing appreciation. People on my team are still submitting multiple offers, with clients. It just happened, this week. So, we need more inventory. That's the biggest issue.
yeah.
So
That's good. Sometimes it's a good problem to have.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yep. And
Yeah,
as long as they're,
for
they're
the
built in and, and regulations, like, it could take a long time to, buy a piece of property, get the permits, get the
yeah,
builder, and you're looking at
yeah,
a year or two, right? So
yeah,
if we could, make it a little bit easier and a couple less hoops to jump through so that people could build a little quicker, that would help. But
exactly.
it's just what it is.
Yeah, but it brings a lot, like we think like lack of inventory is a seller's market, but if we really be honest to ourselves, it's also good for the buyer sometimes, uh,
Mhm.
because if once they buy it, they know that they are okay, they are safe, and things won't just fall apart within a year or two.
Yep.
Right? It might be difficult to get into the first house. You might have to buy a house that might not be absolutely meeting everything you need,
Yep.
but you are financially in a much more safer place as soon as you have crossed that hurdle and you own it. You are on the other end. The buyer
Yeah.
in a
Yep.
much safer position.
Yep, you're guaranteed to get equity, year over
Yeah,
year, and if you, as long as you don't sell within 2 years and are subjected to capital gains tax and
yeah,
stuff like that, you should be able to walk away with some money. And
yeah,
the rental rates right now in our area are just as much as a mortgage, if not more, right?
yeah,
So at
yeah,
least you have something, right? And I think that was a great point you made that if you are looking to buy or you had the dream of home ownership, you might have to sacrifice a couple of things just to get into one, but then your next one could be the perfect home for you, but then you're already going to have equity being built. And
hmm,
as a buyer without a house to sell in this market, I think it's a little bit harder to justify like going over asking in a multiple offer situation.
yeah,
You have equity that you can roll in, you could put more down.
hmm,
Those buyers that just come in and don't have a house to sell, they're a little bit harder to understand overpaying, what they
yeah,
say overpaying, but it's just competitive, if
yeah. Honestly, even if you're like in my market, we end up overpaying like 50 to 200,000 above listing because the price itself is like over 2 million.
oh yeah, yep, yep.
In
So,
the whole grand scheme of things, in 1 year or 1.5 years, we remember like we've overpaid, but the equity buildup is going to be just so much more that it's not even going to mean anything of if you did not buy it, that's not the right place to be.
No, you lost out on all of that equity, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's what we say, you know, on my podcast. Like the best time to do it was 20 years ago or right now, right?
yeah. It
You
and
know?
it and for the first time home buyers, whenever you're listening this, it will always feel difficult to buy the house, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
for a good reason. It will always feel difficult to buy, and I still remember like when my father, like I'm talking like 60, 70 years ago, when my father was buying his first house. I think it was this was in India and like in a different place, but real estate is basics, right? There is some
Yeah.
down payment involved, and he was like, "Why should I buy something for $1,000? That was the cost of the property, and that's just too much. Like, I can do much better with that $1,000. I don't think so, but that's where he was like, this is too expensive, $1,000 for a premium property in major metropolitan region in India. I think right now that property is worth at least, I don't know, like $1 million, like 1,000 to a
Wow.
million.
That's a great return.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So real estate will always feel difficult to buy,
Yep.
and but don't let that shy away from like actually buying something. It will always feel wrong when you're buying it, but
Yep.
wear a little more intelligent hat. Work with professionals like Matt. Take their advice, and majority of the people will be telling you the same thing. So
Yeah.
go
Yep.
go for it. If you can make it happen, if it's the right time in your life to buy a house, that's more important.
I agree. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. And it's, you know, it's one of the biggest purchases anybody's going to ever make, right? And especially if it's your first house, it probably is the most, you know, uh,
It feels daunting.
yeah, yeah. So it's if you didn't feel like that, I don't think you would be human, right? You know, we all
Yeah,
feel that way, and but that also helps, you know, make you rise to the level, like another level. You know,
yeah,
now you have to be responsible for it. You have to be able to budget, you know, accordingly to for those unforeseen, you know, repairs that pop up, and you
yeah,
know, and then also it's just, you know, balancing and learn, you know, paying all your bills, all that. It's just I don't know. To me, it's like a stepping stone in anybody's life or career. You know, it's
yeah,
just I know people though that rent and will not ever buy, and that's fine. You know,
yeah.
if that's
If
what you
yeah, if
want.
it's a life choice, if you're happy with it,
Yep.
fine. Like if
Yeah.
you're not happy with it, then yeah, let's speak. But
Yes.
uh,
Yeah. Exactly. I'm not going to try to change your mind at all, but
yeah,
you know, but if you're, you know, if you're more into traveling and you know, and not having to be, you know, married to your house, then that
and
makes sense.
so I see like a lot of people are in that mindset of like rent versus buy, but then there are a lot of people who are shutting themselves down, thinking it's not possible to buy.
Yeah.
There
Yep.
is a lot of available options. Just speak with real good professionals that are doing stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
and like there's a lot of self-employed people that are not buying, saying I don't have enough in my tax returns because they took their papers to a bank and bank denied it. And
Yep.
like there is a lot of other options available.
So many other options. Yeah. As you
Yeah,
said, you know, DSCR loans. I mean,
yeah.
you know,
Bank statements for self-employed. Like it's crazy. Like
yeah.
uh, it, it. I mean, I don't want to go into the lending world, but yeah, like this. If you're thinking of buying, speak with professionals that are doing this. Speak with the realtors so that you get the good local house that somebody knows, and that same realtor always knows the right people who can help you complete that purchase.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So with first time home buyers and you know and common mistakes, right? I think the first one is either going out looking at properties without being pre-approved or not talking to an agent first because they're going to get
Yeah.
you and you know for me it's a step-by-step process. So it's you know first okay, let's talk, let's understand what you know what we expect from each other, what you're
Yeah.
looking for, and then
Mhm.
have you talked to a bank? Do you like your
Mhm.
bank? Do you know? And then it's just now
Yeah.
you have to get pre-approved and
Yeah.
because I mean you don't want to waste anybody's time and
Yeah.
you might not know you could be you know way more than what you think or less
Yeah.
and you have to go off what you can afford. You could say what
Yeah,
I'm
imagine after buying the house for $1 million, realizing you could have bought a $2 million house. That would be
exactly.
devastating.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you have to do your homework, but I think, you know, getting in touch with a real estate professional right off the bat, especially for a first time home buyer that's never purchased before, is they're
Yeah,
going to help you navigate through, you know, everything a lot easier and hopefully eliminate some of the surprises that could come up, you know.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
but
So
yeah.
yeah, so tell us a little bit more about where you see your Buffalo heading in next 5 to 10 years. Like I know it will keep increasing in value, but what are the things that are like what are some of the cool things that are coming up in Buffalo?
Yeah, so there's, I mean, I don't know how cool it is, but there's a lot of data centers being, being built
Yeah.
up along Lake Ontario, so north of the city of Buffalo. And I have a client that's in town, actually from Ohio, and he's going to be
Mhm.
running one. So I see, and he told me, by the time it's done, he's going to have 150 employees. So
Yeah.
I see a lot more people coming here. There's another stamp project, which is a huge it's towards Batavia. So from Buffalo, you have Batavia, then Rochester's on the other side of Batavia. So right out there, I mean, it's, I think over 1 million square feet, and it's
Hmm.
going to be a data center and, things for AI. And we have a lot of land, a lot of, vacant land that can be used for these, big data centers, and they're kind of off the beaten path. So they're not really bothering neighborhoods and people, so I think that part of, or that industry is going to continue to grow here in Western New York. The medical corridor is exploding. I have one of my rentals is a furnished rental, and there's a ton of traveling nurses that are coming in and out of the area, for a couple months here, a couple months there. Our hospitals are continuously being renovated and improved, and our cancer research at Roswell is really well known, and so I just see it slowly, continuing to just build and grow and grow, and hopefully it's what it used to be. Buffalo had electricity before New York City,
Yeah.
back in the day, and when
Yeah.
Bethlehem Steel was here, I mean, this was a really, really well off, nice area, and we have all the potential. I mean, the buildings, the architecture is just beautiful from the Pan American Exposition. It's just tons of just flawless woodwork everywhere. And yeah, I think that, and I see a lot of people are reinventing these older buildings, and keeping all the, preserving the brick facades that are, historic, and then
Yeah.
just going in and making it, a lot more environmentally friendly, and whether it's geothermal heat or whatever,
Wow. Nice.
really, yeah, they're improving these properties, and I, instead of knocking them down, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and along with this growth, like, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Like, what is your plan?
Yeah, so hopefully I'm going to continue to, grow my own investment portfolio. Like I was mentioning, I'm going to try to get into the more commercial side of
Sure.
investments, and then my business, I just want to keep growing about 5 to 10% every year. That's my idea, my goal. Yeah, if I could be around 15-20 million dollar producer at that time, that would be that's
Amazing.
where I see myself. So it's
Yeah.
just, a lot can happen, but I have kids that are still here and in school, and I'm going to continue to grind and just
Yeah.
try to blow it up as best as I can.
Yeah, that is amazing. So, as we come close to the end of this episode, I always open up the floor and say, like, is there something else you would love to share with the audience?
Um, yeah, no. I just, wanted to show my appreciation to you. Thank you for reaching out and having me as a guest on your show. And I'd like to have you on my show one day sometime.
Absolutely. I would love
Yeah.
to.
Let's keep, yeah. Okay, great. We'll set that up. But yeah, thank you very much. And, the Buffalo is a great place. If you're ever in town, reach out. And if there's anybody that's listening, I'm easy to get a hold of. You can Google me, Matthew J. Paul Real Estate. That's my company within, EXP. But yeah, I'd love to help anybody. So just reach out if I can help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's a great place to visit, invest, and thrive, right? So, for every, I always say, there is a lot of investors that try to get maximum returns on money,
Hmm.
without understanding the fundamentals of real estate, right?
Yeah.
The fundamentals of real estate, yeah, you might be able to get a place and as an investment property or a commercial property in a place that will make all the financial sense, but the underlying things about real estate and investment is what is it that is driving the location forward. And
Hmm.
Buffalo is one of the unique places where it's not crazy expensive, just as you mentioned. The rent and mortgage difference is not that high, so if you end up buying an investment property, the rent will cover it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
at the same time, the underlying fundamentals, there is more job growth, there is good job growth, and lack of supply. All of that make it a very good place to even invest. Like,
Yes.
a
Yep.
lot of people end up investing in places that just make financial sense on the paper today, but
Mhm.
that wipes out if underlying fundamentals are not right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and it could plateau. If the
Yeah,
like the area around it isn't supporting what you're doing, you're going to struggle. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. So yeah, looking forward to investing more in Buffalo myself, and
Great.
and having a lot more clients your way soon.
Awesome. That'd be great. Well, thank
Thanks a
you.
lot, Matt.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Main Street Minds. Want to share your journey with our audience? Head over to mainstreetmindspodcast.com/guest to apply.